Hello, welcome back, everyone. I am back for my little tooth situation. For those who saw the post, no, I am not dying. I realized the way I worded that made me feel like made it sound like I was hospitalized and bedridden. No, wisdom teeth's coming out hit my bump nerve, so I couldn't talk for like a week without being in unbearable pain. And I sit here and I talk for like for around 40 minutes every week. So that would have been very painful. That would have been incredibly painful. But it's fine. I have a oral surgery uh, due next month, and they're gonna yank it out. It's on the 16th, so expect there to not be an episode that week, as I'm gonna have several holes in my mouth from teeth being yanked out. But other than that, yeah, everything has been pretty, sunny side up recently. I want to open up with something positive this week, as there's actually a lot of things to go over. All my Christmas gifts arrived. I did my Christmas shopping early, so I always hand them out early. I don't like handing them out on Christmas. Believe it or not like a bah humbug thing. I hate the Christmas spirit, but I know it's just kind of a weird thing. I've always received my Christmas gifts from friends early, not from family. We all give our I give my gifts to my family on Christmas always, but when it comes to friends, it's never been on Christmas. It's just a weird thing. But I've been giving them to my friends as I run into them throughout the week, kind of like a little whole Santa Claus thing. I keep them in my car in case I run into them. So it's been really nice. Been very nice. But we are here on North Guadalupe Street 222. We are recording live. These episodes are recorded live 10 a.m. every Friday. We're starting a little late than usual. I got held up by traffic and construction for a little bit. You can't see it from here, but it is a mess out there. Santa's little workers, they're trying their hardest to get these roads nice and well constructed. And we're probably just going to jump into this right after the announcements. The dinner services, Wednesday to Saturday, 6 to 10 p.m. Ramen bowl chicken yakitori. I highly recommend the chicken yakitori. I cannot stress that enough. It is absolutely delicious. And then, I almost said rice balls. Rice onigiri. They're triangular, not spherical. Big difference, big difference. And, of course, every Wednesday, I help run an open mic, Cakes Cafe, from 7 to 11. Please come check it out if you feel like sharing anything, or you just want to come say hi. Come say hi to me, get a drink, talk to me about the podcast or comics or cartoons or whatever you feel like it. I've had some customers come in just to say hi to me, and it's really sweet. But other than that, yeah, I'm as of recording this episode, should be doing the final touches on the suicide and depression episode. Just a forewarning, though, the audio is not fixable. So what we have done is we have tried to get it to a point with. I've had so many people trying to work on this. I've hired audio engineers to work on this. It's not going to work. It's irredeemable. So it's a very important episode. So I'm just going to release it, and I'm going to give a warning that the audio is pretty bad. It's pretty bad, but I still think it's. If it was just like a normal episode like this, I wouldn't have bothered with it. I probably would have re-recorded it or just been like, not all of them are meant to see the light of day. But this is such a serious and personal topic to me. So I'm going to be releasing that episode the same week as this one. But yeah, let's jump right into it. Said something positive for the day. I'm not going to open up with a quote this time since there's going to be a lot of quotations. But in the episode 6, the episode where I talked about This Is How We Get Butter by Narcissus Cookbook, I went over brief topics of authenticity. To me, authenticity is the ultimate, to me, it's the purpose of life. It's how we're supposed to live our lives. We're supposed to live it to our most authentic selves. That's been a very important thing for me. That's what I believe it is. I've talked to some people. Some of them, of course, everyone has a different opinion on how that is and what are the components that make that objective goal journey. Some people, I've talked to a friend of mine who says the purpose of life is to enrich yourself, to partake in the many things that come in life. And I did agree with him to an extent on that, because it aligned with a lot of what I think being authentic is. Today we're gonna go over one of those key ingredients, Sonder. And what better way to talk about that than the 2022 album by the Rex pop rock band, Sonder. We're gonna be going over the original album, not the deluxe album. Actually, no. We will be going over one song from the deluxe album, the deluxe release. But these are, I believe, this was their second album. They had the first album released in 2020, I believe, before the pandemic. Infinitely Ordinary. Not going to be going over that. But that's going to be the main topic of today. We're going to be going over a few songs in that album, and then we're going to be going over Bigger Than Myself by Bug Hunter, one of my favorite all-time albums, which covers a lot of similar topics as well, in a sense, hitting more close to home of like the actual definition of Sonder rather than the Sonder album, is more of a narrative. We'll take a deep dive there in a sec. And then for the third piece we're going over today is a 224 episode webtoon by AC Stewart and Victor Rosas, Elf and Warrior. It is a fantasy action series about an elf and a warrior. They make an adventuring party and they go on adventures. Pretty straightforward. That's basically the plot, but we'll take a look at all the different characters in the party and such. All right, so Sonder. For the uninitiated, Sonder is basically embracing kind of like I'm not going to do a word for word definition because it can get a little confusing, but I'm going to use an example here. So it's more like you're taking the side character road. You're living your life, and the focus is on everyone else around you. You are not the center of your story. And consider this a gateway into next week's episode, as I wholeheartedly believe we're all living a TV show, we're all living in a book, we're all living in a comic or a cartoon or whatever. Our life is a story, but we are not the main character. I wholeheartedly believe that. However, we live in everyone else's stories, and they neither are the main character of their stories. They're the main character of our stories, because we're witnessing them. We are just the protagonists. We're just the perspective, the lens. But it's what I mean by that is it's kind of realizing how complex everyone is. It's like one of those aha moments when when you're in high school or out of high school or in college or whatever point in your life you are in. It's realizing, oh, this guy's going through a bunch of other stuff like me. A bunch of crazy stuff happens in all these people's life, just like me. That's not exactly a word for word definition, but you get what I'm going here with. There we go. So, backstory for the Rex. I don't know anything about them, so that's the end of the backstory. But they're a pop rock band. I have mixed feelings about pop music in general. I feel like it's a bit of a lazy genre, and I'm talking like record label pop bands. These guys are not a top dog pop record label band. They take pop music influences. And when I say pop music, I don't mean popular music. I mean pop as a genre. I don't care what people say. It's a genre. But what Sonder goes over, the entire album is from beginning to end the is about a leaving a very toxic relationship, and the self reflection that comes with that, and how it brings the worst out in all of us. Being in a really toxic relationship, or getting out of a really bad one, sometimes we don't get better from it. Sometimes we get worse. And it goes over the very first song is the lead title song, Sonder. And it goes over how the singer's ex left Arizona. They were an awful person. They never cared for anyone. They were always caught up in their own little world. Ugh. I gotta stop drinking soda in the morning. I'm so burpy today. But ex leaves for Arizona. They're finally out of a bad relationship, and they're coming to terms with the realization that they are always kept up in their own little world, their own little bubble, like their own little planet, their own little pebble, essentially. No one else exists on that planet but them, and no one else matters but them. And through that, we've kind of gone over this with the Kick the Robot episode, with Give In, Give Up. But I'll reference that in a bit, maybe. But Sonder, the song kind of sets the stage for where our singer's at mentally, and what he's been going through, which is, just the realization of, man, that really sucked. And it really sucked for me, and it was not good for me. The next song in that album I want to go over is just Unholy, which is what I was saying earlier about how a bad relationship can bring the worst out in us. And sometimes we can think that's a good thing. Whenever we're in this mindset of getting out of toxic relationships, sometimes we get into these, let's call them phases, for lack of a better term, where whether we realize it or not, we're doing things that are not healthy for us, that are not healthy for the people around us. Unholy goes, basically, it's going through the thought process of, this person has broken me down, ruined me. And there's a little silence that happens at the end of the intro of the song. And it kicks back up again, being like, I'm back better than ever. Where it completely flips the script of being like, I became an awful person from this, and I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know why I'm doing this. Into, I know why I'm doing this. This is me getting better. I'm back better than ever. Literally how the song opens up, and that after the intro. And it's the justification that all of this is okay. And towards the end of the song, we have those aha moments of Sonder, I like to call, where the singer begins to realize that I shouldn't fall into this trap. I shouldn't fall into the same toxic habits that I did with my ex, or my ex did as well. And there's a bit of irony to some of these songs too. There's "Don't Be Scared," which is there's like different lyrics of like shotgun, gated neighborhood. Don't be afraid. We're all gonna die anyways. Who cares? The song "Don't Be Scared," it's supposed to be a bit of a parody of essentially, don't stay holed up. Don't stay holed up to yourself, because here's the thing about relationships that the song goes over. Essentially, doesn't matter if it's a good relationship. It doesn't matter if it's a bad relationship. You're gonna get hurt. You gotta be vulnerable. You gotta be open. You can't be scared of that. Like, we'll probably take 1 billion steps throughout our entire life, from the day we start walking to the day we get bedridden, and guaranteed, 100% guaranteed, you are going to trip once. You're gonna scrape your knee on something. You're gonna hit your elbow on something. You're gonna get hurt. And just because you get hurt once doesn't mean you're gonna stop walking, right? That's stupid. Imagine if, like, the cavemen, when they discovered fire, it burnt down like a little, I don't know, dry food supply. All their food went bad. They're like, oh, fire bad. It burns everything. Let's not make fire again. That's dumb. It's dumb. Just because you get hurt once doesn't mean, you know, it's the end all be all. But I'm getting a little off tangent here. But it's supposed to be a song to encourage that you need to open up, even if it's good or bad, because that's how you're gonna grow. That's how you're gonna come to realize more about the person you're with. Essentially, it's you're probably gonna start picking up on the point here that every song goes over a, I would like to call it a complexity for best way I like to say it. Every song is hitting a moment of Sonder, essentially, which is song by song, lyric by lyric. Our singer comes to realize, dissecting his relationship with just like all these things that happened and how they affected me, and like, oh my God, I can't believe that. You see where we're getting here now. There's a song from the deluxe album too, as well, that I do want to go over. Soapbox. If Sonder explains what our singer's going through, Soapbox is the singer talking about. You can take it purely as a narrative song of what led to the album in the first place, where it opens up with his partner ordering a coffee, half and half oat milk. Quite a word twister. The partner gets impatient, makes the poor barista cry. He brings up in the car, and he's labeled the jerk. And it's at that moment where he realizes, this is it. I'm dating an awful person. This is not healthy. It's over. And then she moves to Arizona, and that's where we get the first song of the album, Sonder. Not really anything important. It's probably why it's in the deluxe album, but I really like it, especially since it's more of a narrative album rather than a thematic album. The Sonder album only goes over that one song. It's the lead title. It's not exactly focused on that school of thought, but it does play into the idea of that's what every song really ultimately is. It's that realization of the complexities. But the focus is more about the narrative of this guy gets through a bad breakup, and he's catching himself from becoming just as bad as the person that he was dating. He's not letting this toxic relationship get the better of them, and that's a big thing a lot of people need to realize. When we finally start dating or get into dating, there is a level of maturity we hit where we can be unhealthy or manipulative or even toxic to the people around us or ourselves and not even realize that. But it's once we hit that, I feel like we kind of like, how would I say, spike in level of, I'm mincing my words here, God. But we get a much better terms of understanding when it comes to emotions like this, to relationships, platonic or romantic. And this album has been like on my mind for like the past good 5 months. Been wanting to write an episode about it for the longest time, but I just couldn't really get my mind on the points I wanted to go over. I went over the script a lot, but it's a very important thing because to me, understanding the concept of Sonder, I believe, is one of the most important things to living an authentic life, authentic to yourself. Is that understanding? Is, life is more about the people you live it with and how they affect you. I always compare myself to like a living scrapbook. I am just a book with blank pages, and the things that are filled in there are little snippets or pictures or funny little notes that are left behind the people I meet, whether they're still in my life or not. Everything leaves a little bit in that scrapbook. Going over scrapbooks, though, Bug Hunter. He is one of my favorite artists. We've talked a lot about him on the podcast before. This probably won't be the last. But my favorite album from him is Bigger Than Myself. Uh, I love all of his albums, but this one significantly stands out further in the race than the rest of his stuff. I don't remember the year they came out, and forgive me, but what is this album about? What is this album about? If you listen to any Bug Hunter, it can be very hard to gain a concept of what every album is about, really. And I like to think that it's kind of a sense of a scrapbook example I just talked about as well. Well, where Bug Hunter, whatever point of life he is in, he'll turn all that into little music, and he'll create an album out of that. So each little album is supposed to describe little snippets from his life from before that album was created. A good example is McCracken, the song that gave him a music career. He was on an airport. This is from the Rough Draft album, by the way. This is probably a bad example, but bear with me. McCracken, he's on an airport. He's sitting next to this lady that's typing out something for her pen pal, and he's, being very rude and side-eyeing it, reading it, and it just goes over how this woman is madly in love with this man named McCracken, but can't bring herself to be honest with her opinions. Like, this woman who's, like, presumably a senior citizen, probably 50s, 60s, maybe 70s, who knows? But much, much older than our singer, Bug Hunter, who's at this time, I believe, in his late 20s when he's writing this song. Late 20s, maybe just became 30. Or mid-20s. Because the song originally, the single came out in 2017, I believe. But it wasn't until the Rough Draft, which I believe was either during or a little after the pandemic, that that album came out. But that's essentially what all these albums are about. They're scrapbooks. So, what kind of scrapbook is Bigger Than Myself? Well, let's start with the first song, Safe Word. And it's more of a guide, like a little handbook. Starts off with the line, broken clocks right twice a day, but mine spins in reverse in May. What does that mean? I don't know, but I love that lyric. I quote it all the time whenever I say the broken clocks right twice a day, or someone says that, and then I go, mine spins in reverse in May. But I want to, specifically with this song, I want to focus on the imagery of a lot of Bug Hunter's lyricism, lyric writing, sing-song stuff. Safe Word, the whole idea of that song is to remember to take a moment to stand still, relax, and take life as it is, and appreciate everything around you. The whole idea is don't let your anxiety get the better of you. Rather than focusing on everything that's happening to you, everything that's happening inside of your head, breathe. And acknowledge everything else around you. Everything else around you, there's so much more going on around you than what's going on in your head. And through that comparison, whatever you're freaking out about becomes very insignificant. I do like to have my, whenever I catch myself getting really anxious, I have myself a safe word that I always say. And I'll be like, I'm not going to say the safe word, but for example, I'll be like, pineapple. I'll be like, oh, I'm freaking out. Let's calm down and see what's going on around us. It's very much a song that encourages you to be messy, be imperfect, don't stress about doing everything correct. My favorite line from it is like, what was it? You're no machine, but there's no problem with letting off a little steam. Which is like, you could probably, and it's followed with a John Henry line. It's like, you're not John Henry, don't get tunnel vision, man, that's toxic. The whole idea of the John Henry story of the train releasing steam, drilling into the mountain. John Henry just beat. Everyone knows the story, and if you don't, you should look it up. It's great. There's a movie, but yeah, I'm tripping on my words here. Bleh. Yeah, you can get what I'm saying here. He's a master with lyrics. Uh, says a lot of stuff, and it just pops an image into your head so naturally, like you don't even think about it. As for going more further into that topic, I want to go over Pine Cones, which is probably my second favorite song, right behind Safe Word, in that album. Which is here's our singer, Pine Cones, and this is based off of a true story. But Pine Cones follows the story of our author. He gets super anxious. He forgets his safe word, and he gets really sad, depressed, and all that. Climbs up a tree and starts throwing a bunch of pine cones at people. It's a pretty straightforward song, but what's the biggest thing is it's the imagery. Like he talks about chucking one at a police officer, and he's like, "They call me Tarzan because I'm getting scouted by the Mets." It's just it's really playful. It's really funny. And he talks about how he wants to just stay up in this tree and not deal with the rest of the world ever again. He's like, I'm gonna be up here for 1,000 years. Me with my robotic legs, my robotic butt don't know it yet. It's just saying this stuff out loud makes me giggle. I feel like a kid. But yeah, that's the whole thing with imagery that he does, and he does use it to not just comedic effects, to very productive stuff. Uh, Headlights, the entire song about headlights. It's a song about moving on. Uh, like I said about the scrapbook concept, sometimes these people that leave things, they're still a part of the life. Sometimes they're not. And Headlights goes over the idea of whether it's a friendship or a relationship or something like that. Uh, they're no longer in your life anymore. It's just a passerby. You got to meet them for a little bit, and then they're just gone like that. And he compares it to driving in the night on like a highway or like up in the mountains, and he gets blinded by the headlights. He notices a car, and then just like that, they're gone. And he can't help but think about, the headlights, where they're going, where they're coming from, and all that. Um, he's focused on when the headlights blind him, which is essentially just him getting caught up with this person, getting to know them, hanging out with them and such, and then they drive by, they're gone, and he can't help but think about that single moment where he kind of stopped, was blinded, stopped, took a moment to get to know someone, essentially. And it goes over a lot of the struggles, uh, you know, that comes with that. It can be whether it can be hard to let go of it, or it can make you say things you don't want to say. All of this stuff is revised in the chorus. But what does this all have to do with Sonder? What does this all have to do with complexities? In a sense, it's more of appreciating everything around you, everything that happens to you. Kind of living your life more like a side character and accepting just stuff is going to come to you and leave. Stuff's going to happen and it'll be over. But you're never like the focus of it. There's the ending song, Pebbles. We'll go over that in a sec. But I want to go over Waving Goodbye, which is a song that sort of leads into Pebbles. It's a song about the importance of family. And, of course, as I said with Headlights, it goes over Bug Hunter's struggle of moving on, saying goodbye to his family, whether it's moving out, going to college, or whatever the situation is. There's a line in it where he says he calls his mother once a week, his dad twice a year. Sorry. Every week I say this, but I am under the weather. Wow. A sickly guy. I need to start taking like vitamin capsules or something. Call my mother once a week, my dad twice a year, but I love them all the same. And I giggle at that line every time. But getting back to the song, the big old meat of it, he talks about his appreciation for his mother, his traits that he inherited from his mother, his traits that he inherited from his father, but he's not quite like them, but he hopes to be like their best selves and such. And the main focus of the song is, family. Appreciate your mom and dad. Love them, appreciate them, be happy if you have your parents in your life. But it goes over this little topic of they're making something. Their focus is not themselves, not their lives. It's their kid, Bug Hunter, little old bug, and that's their purpose. That's what they're focused on. They are not the main character of their lives. It's Bug Hunter, and they're working on something that's more than just them, and that's where it leads to Pebbles. Pebbles is a song about planting tiny little rocks in his garden, and they turn into big old planets. These little pebbles are supposed to represent every little neighbor in their community. How everyone kind of just lives in their own world. And he compares to his neighbors visiting his house to aliens invading his little planet, his little pebble, essentially. Whether we come in peace, or they could be a complaining neighbor, and he'll be like, they're allergic to the whimsical, so I'll play this song and their heads will explode into peanuts and confetti, and just such a little silly cozy song. But he talks about how he's starting a family, he's living in a community, he's working with people for his music, getting to know his neighbors. He has a loved one in his life. And he kind of comes to this moment of realization, a moment of Sonder, that there's so much more to life than the little pebble he's living on. There's more than just, it's not his world. He's living in his own world until this little moment. And he realizes that wait for it, it's something bigger than himself. That's how the song ends. That's the whole album. It's moments of Sonder. It's little complexities. Granted, this is a much more lighthearted and wholesome manner compared to the Rex album, where it's like, I've become the worst person I can possibly be because of a relationship. This is Bug Hunter realizing he's becoming the best possible person he can be because of the community around him. Because he's not focused on himself. He's not focused on his life and such. And it's sweet. I thought this was the best album to pair with Sonder, as it's kind of a contrast to it. Before we get on to the next segment, I want to go over going back to Waving Goodbye, specifically the dad. There's a bonus track called The Magic 8 Ball. Doo-doo. That's why I wore a little 8 ball today. Shake, shake. What does it say? And this is completely separate from the album. Contributes really nothing to it. But it's a song about about a father and a daughter. The woman he marries, and his father-in-law. And it talks about how whenever his daughter was stressed out about finals or a job interview, he'd calm her down by taking the magic 8 ball and he'd go, shake, shake. He'd look at it and he'd be like, everything's going to be all right. And then it hits the chorus of a dad takes care of his girl. And then the song ends with Bug asking for her hand in marriage, gets the blessing from the father, and he takes the little 8 ball and he goes, shake, shake. Looks like it's going to be all right. I hope you take care of my daughter. Needed to bring that up. Such a sweet old little song. So sweet. All right. So we've talked about the good, the bad, complexities, Sonder. What does Elfin Warrior, a action fantasy series, have to do with all this? Well, not exactly has to do with Sonder, but embracing that side character life, essentially. where the world doesn't revolve around you. You're not important. And that's exactly what our main character is, Elf, also known as Basri, is. He's an elf that's been left. He's half elf specifically. He was left behind a magic book of spells by his deceased family. And he's being taken care of by his uncle. And they go on little adventures, more like crime. His uncle, the warrior, also known as Hector, he's a criminal, does crime, robbery, stuff like that, looks after the kid. And while they are trying to, the whole premise of the story is Basri trying to figure out the mystery behind what is this magic book. It has a giant gem in it, and it's the reason why he's able to use spells. But the whole story, you get from the first 10 chapters that the focus of the story is him trying to find out what happened to his parents and the book. And for 200 episodes, there are 224. For 200 episodes, we do not see any of that. We do not see any of that. It's Basri following everyone else. He helps his friend Gilly, which is the queen of she's the princess of the underwater world, essentially. He helps this guy named Stumpy, which is a little stump, and also spoilers, of course, as always. This little stump, he's the evil incarnation of the woods, a little wood spirit that was created to get vengeance on humanity, essentially. He helps his uncle Hector run from his past of crime and such, and all that. There's a giant mimic chest that eats things, and it's horrifying and grotesque, and not in like the horrifying sense you would imagine, but if you read it, you'll get it. He's not important at all, but he's just a funny slapstick character. He helps the pugs, which is it's a race of it's a species of just little pugs, little dog people. Essentially, they're all pugs, and one of them gets kidnapped into a demon world, and he helps use his magic book try to get them out. None of this follows Basri. The focus is always one of these different characters. He's just there along for the ride, and we're seeing it from his eyes. But of course, through this and the magical power of writing and plot development, we learn more about Basri. We learn more about the spell book, and we learn that all these people are somehow connected to him in a way. And it's through that he's able to uncover the mysteries of his spell book and the mysteries of his family and such. Where he kind of, throughout the first half of the series, he's always obsessed with being the center of attention, being the most important. But he wants to be a hero like his parents, because they were heroes in a war. They saved lives. They saved many lives. They were incredible people. But he's incapable, and this idea of wanting to be the center of attention always gets in the way of him doing the right thing. It always inhibits him from doing good, essentially, and he becomes an awful person. And he doesn't realize this until halfway through the series, where he finally becomes the center of attention. Like, he becomes famous through a business, and he decides to give the whole hero business and doesn't want to help people anymore. And he has a moment where there's someone who's starving, needs money, and all that. And he realizes that through his business, him being rich and all that, he's not doing anything good. And all the people around him don't really like him. They like him because he's famous, not because of who he is. So he gives up all of his money, uses it to make the homeless, starving person, get them food, get them a house, all that and such, and essentially help them. And he gives up the whole business, and he goes back to being a hero. But it's through this moment where he begins to accept his limits, his what he's actually capable of. And it's through this he actually is able to start helping people. He's able to save lives, and he's able to do a lot. But he never acknowledges himself. He's never putting himself in the front or in the center. he's not in his own world. That's his moment of Sonder, essentially, where he realizes it's not about him, and it's not gonna be about him. The series is very. I realize I'm going over this very briefly, as I'm just mostly talking about the general character development of Basri rather than the rest of the characters. However, Basri, being the protagonist, is in line with the theme of today's episode. Though, I'm not doing the comic justice, as where the comic truly thrives and the most interesting parts is not just him, but it's all the other characters. It's Gilly, it's Hector, it's Stumpy. There's Calicar, the main, who's the main villain of the series. Absolutely lovely character, very well written. I absolutely adore him. One of my favorite villains in media. So I will leave. This is not my recommendation, but I will leave a link to the series and to the webtoon in the description of this episode when it comes out. Because I'm not doing it justice with what I'm going over now, but I'm using it as an example to hit home, get that last base home run with the point I'm trying to make. And it's be a side character. Let people focus on other people's lives. Get involved. Don't be holed up on your little pebble. That's all I ask. That's what Basri does. He's holed up in his little world, his little pebble. He's isolated. He's alone. He's surrounded by family. But he feels so far away, planets away from these people, until he has that little realization and things start getting better. And that's the bare minimum I can ask. I never sit down with these podcasts being like, this is advice, listen to it, do these things or whatever. But it's just food for thought. I just want you to realize this is an idea. And you can think about it, you can act upon it. I'm not here to tell you how to live your life. But I do want to help you get through whatever thoughts you're having. And if it happens to be something I go over in these episodes, I'm glad I could help. Or not help. I'm just glad you listened. It means a lot. So, before we end off today's episode, recommendation. I was juggling between these two comics of which one to talk about, but I believe that the character development of Basri from Elfin Warrior would have been much better, as to really hit the nail in the coffin with this one, rather than this comic I'm about to recommend. It's either Nerd and Jock or Jock and Nerd. I always get the confused. Nerd and Jock and Jock and Nerd. I'm just going to say that. Nerd and Jock and Jock and Nerd. Kind of fun to say. But it's a series by Marco. Like Marko. Actually, you know what? Scratch that. I am 100% convinced I'm thinking of a different person right now. But, it will be in the description. But it's a slice of life series. It goes over this nerd and this jock. And just them being best friends. And what they all... And they... In every episode, they're doing something for each other. Like, Nerd's being like, oh, I should get this for Jock. He'll love it. Or Jock will be like, oh, I should take Nerd to this place. He would probably love it. It's so much fun and all that. Very short, simple, super cute series. It's just a day-to-day life stuff with them. So there wouldn't be a lot to really talk about there, but it's still worth giving it a read. It's an ongoing series. Elfin Warrior has finished. You can read all the episodes for free on Webtoon. It's on Canvas, not Originals. It's on Canvas. Originals is published work on Webtoons. Canvas is self-independent work not published by Webtoon. But yes, please go read both of them. I highly recommend them. But yeah, those two will be in the link of the description and such. And with that, I hope you realized a little something about yourself and a little something about the outside world. Next week's episode, we're going to be talking about love. Good old love. Christmas is the time where people are falling in love. And then New Year comes, and then January, it's all boring. And they're like, oh, let's wait till Valentine's Day. Valentine's Day comes, and we're like, we're in love. And then they don't fall in love anymore. It's going to be love stories. We're going to be talking about love stories. And And you know what? I'm gonna give a little hint. I'm gonna give a little hint. I'm sorry, but this is last minute. But there is another song by the Rex, and it's called "Always and Every Time." I talked about the negatives of a relationship with Sonder in this episode, but I want to talk about the positives. And "Always and Every Time" goes over a story of this guy. He meets a girl at a dry cleaner. They fall in love. They start dating. And it's a very short and sweet song, nothing too complex, where they get into a bunch of arguments, and it always works out until his girlfriend just goes, "How do you how are you able to deal with this? How are you, you know, still in love with me? How are you not tired of all this stuff that happens?" And he goes, "It's in. I just know that we'll talk it out, and it works out always, every time. It does." Very simple song. So, if you want to get a bit of a head start on next week's episode, listen to that song. It's their newest single. As of recording this, that's their newest release. Always, Every Time by the Rex. But yeah, I will catch you guys next week, and you have a good one.